Ah, Christmas has come and gone, and I'm pretty sure I did not mute my sound this time. So, hi there. Welcome, everybody, to the last Cast Iron Wednesday of 2023. Yes, it's true. Christmas is finally behind us. And that means now we are getting ready for the last few days of 2023 before we move on into what certainly looks up to be a really interesting year, 2024. So yes, that means we've got New Year's coming up. And of course, there's no better way to celebrate New Year's than by doing some cast iron cooking. Not to mention talking about the cast iron cooking we did on Christmas. So there's certainly a lot. There's been a lot of cooking this last week or so because we are, of course, approaching the end of the holidays. We've had the climax, so to speak, and now we are just moving on until, again, until next Monday when the new year is upon us. So, and I apologize again for not being able to do the Cast Iron Live last Wednesday, and I'm certainly hoping we can make up for it tonight because I did miss having some interesting conversation. So, thank you very much to everybody again, once again, who has been kind enough to show up here tonight. You know, folks like Pat Z, hi Rums, Judy W, hello, and Pip Gorn, Cynthia Wesley, nice to see you again, and Beth Button. Hello, Silva579. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Rocket Caver, Beth Rums. Terry Sinchef, induction only works on iron and iron alloy. The burners don't get hot. Well, induction also works on steel and stainless steel. But yes, I mean, it works great on cast iron too. So if you have an induction stove or an induction hot plate, use it. And hello and happy new year to you too, Beth Button and RT Scott, 4M Morris family, G. Humphrey, Jim F., Rick Stumbaugh. Hello, kitties and kiddos, and so many others. Yes, especially since we do have some prep work to do tonight. And I've got, looks like I'm pulling out at least no less than 5 cast iron pieces tonight. So we've got a lot to play with. For starters, we are making good old Hoppin John. Is that a new mic? Well, actually, it's the mic I've been using. Although I don't know, I've had it charging for 2 weeks now instead of one, so maybe there's a difference with that. But well, I'm glad to hear that it seems to sound good. And yes, and Cynthia Wesley. But as I said, we are again preparing that traditional New Year's Day dish. You know, the one that goes with the ham hocks and black-eyed peas. Although I don't have ham hocks, I'm afraid. So yes, and for many families, especially in the South, it's a tradition on New Year's to make black-eyed peas as something of a wish for good luck and prosperity in the new year. And that, of course, is a dish what they call Hoppin John, which is what we will be putting together tonight. We've got some hoppin, yeah. So that's going to be since I couldn't find ham hocks at the store. I'm afraid I had to get the cheapest. I wanted to get the cheapest pork pieces I could find, and that turned out to be pork ribs. So that's not so bad. Along with the black-eyed peas, we've got some collard greens to prepare. There will be rice and cornbread. Yes, indeed. You've got to have cornbread when you're having your Hoppin' John. So, and cabbage for wealth, or in this case, in Louisiana. In this case, as I said, we're having collard greens. That means we're going to start off with heating up our cornbread pan. And here's a chance for me to take up my favorite cornbread pan, which is something I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but this is no, this is lucky number 7, which is a gate marked number 7 size cast iron skillet. And the story goes is that this is actually kind of a generic piece that was originally part of a set of complementary cookware that likely came with a wood burning stove. Someone bought a wood burning stove back in the maybe late 1800s or so, and that stove came with a whole bunch of different pieces, including piece number A, which was this skillet here. There was probably a piece number B, which could have been anything. It could have been a griddle. It could have been could have been a kettle. Could have been a larger skillet. But there were several pieces that all went along with it, and this happened to be one of them. This piece here just happened to survive all the way to today, where it has gotten a lot of use in my kitchen as my cornbread pan. And so we will get started with that by moving over to the oven where the other cast iron is. Throw this into the oven. Actually, it looks like I got to adjust the rack a little bit. That's a little better. And we will start preheating the oven to 400 degrees. And there's a start. Because, of course, you've got to preheat your cast iron pan and get it good and hot if you're going to be making cornbread. But yes, here are the other pieces that we will be seeing tonight, including the Birmingham Stove and Range Red Mountain Dutch Oven, which is going to come next, a large enameled cast iron Dutch oven, which I'll be using for boiling the collard greens. In the back, we've got the BSR saucepan. This is the Lady Best saucepan. I'm going to be using that for melting butter. And over here is something fairly new that I acquired only about a week or so ago, and that is an enameled cast iron saucepan. This one, in fact, is a Descoware made in Belgium. I think it's about 1.5 quarts in size or so. Got it for $10. It looks like it's in a good condition. The inside is not cracked or anything like that. Regrettably, it did not come with a lid, so I had to find a lid that fitted to use as a replacement. And for now, we're just going to be using this to make rice to go with our Hoppin John. All right, that's what we have for a starter here. I keep watching to see if your gate marked skillet. I haven't seen that happen yet. Max has not yet used the gate marked pan that I get him, and I don't know if he ever will. But of course, that's his prerogative. He has, I see, done a couple of other pans out recently, including this very large stainless steel brazier, which is pretty deep and wide, and I'm suspecting he'll be using that quite a bit, maybe even more than the cast iron. But, well, you never know. The oven door has a theft alarm on it. It does? Oh, no, mine does not, I'm afraid. Oh, unless you consider the squeak when the oven door opens. And yeah, I guess you could say that. So 59 watching. Well, that was fast. And we barely started. So in fact, rather than talking, we've got a little bit of prep work to do. And that is, whoops, and I just minimized it. There we go. And that is, got to start cutting up some meat to throw into the pot. And this is not going to be difficult. I've got right here, I've got somewhat less than half a pound of bacon, because bacon is always good. Nobody will complain about having bacon with their pork and their black-eyed peas. So, and what's more, I don't actually have to dice this up. All I really need to do is to cut it up into fairly large pieces like we've done, and the bacon will be ready. Now, before we do that, though, I have one other piece to cut up. And again, I'm only cutting this up into large pieces as well. As I said, normally you're supposed to have ham hocks. And the reason why we have ham hocks goes more to the legend of Hoppin John, as they call it, which is the traditional New Year's dish. It's something of an interesting urban legend too, and we're not even sure how much of this is actually true. There's a lot of there's a lot of bone on this. So let's see if I can do this in the right way. That should do. The rest of it should hopefully fall off the bone if we do it for an hour and a half. But yes, Hoppin John and this whole thing about black-eyed peas on New Year's. This is one of those urban legends that nobody really knows the origin of. There's an urban legend that with a happy ending and one with a not so happy ending, and I tend to combine the two. And that is that well, this all started with the end of the American Civil War after the South was defeated by the North, and unfortunately, the South was left in practically in ruins. At least large parts of it were. Between the battles that had been fought, as well as the campaign by the North to disrupt as much of the South as possible. Yeah, I know, with Sherman's March probably being the most famous. As a result, there were quite a few families down south that were left in really, really poor condition. And so they really had to scrounge to be able to find enough food to eat. And the legend goes that the uh, the Union soldiers allegedly ransacked a lot of their crops, and about the only thing they left behind were certain pieces of food that supposedly they were too proud to eat. Stuff like black-eyed peas and ham hocks and collard greens. Gee, or so they say. Again, that's how the legend goes. And so, as a result, having only those parts left over, they say that a lot of families pretty much subsided on those kind of dishes, those kind of foods, and it was enough to save families from starvation. So, as a result, there was a lot of respect for those particular pieces of food, and that was kind of what gave to the legend of having these particular pieces, these pieces that were generally considered to be throwaways on New Year's. As a wish for prosperity and hope in the coming new year. And here's where the other part of the legend comes in, because with Hoppin John, you're supposed to serve things that actually represent money. In that you'd have, of course, the ham hocks, and you'd have black-eyed peas, which, from their look, is generally was thought to represent pennies, whereas it would go along with collard greens, which was thought to represent paper money. And on top of all that, you would serve it along with cornbread, which also supposedly represents gold. So, yeah, all of this is meant as a wish for prosperity in the new year, or so the legend goes. And why not? Okay, having said all that, let us get to some cooking, which means we get to start looking at our next cast iron piece here. Let me see if I can get this right so that we've got a decent view here. There we go. And here is another old piece of cast iron, not as old as that gate marked skillet, but still pretty old. And that would be the Red Mountain Birmingham Stove and Range Dutch Oven, which I have already been heating up hot enough that I am certain I'm going to need a pot holder to open this up. There we go. We've gotten this thing nice and hot so that we can start right away with the bacon. And I did forget something. I forgot my spatula. My bad. So let's pull that out. And now at last, let there be bacon. There we go. We will render out some bacon fat as well as get some nice tasty flavor to add to this dish. Also means we got a lot of smoke coming up, of course. And while we're doing that, those look like country style ribs. You like to barbecue them. Yeah, that's a nice thing too. Grumpy old gringo. No, I'm not high. Okay. Yes, you're right. You are not high. Absolutely not. Nobody has said you are high, grumpy old gringo. Although what I'll say is whatever you do in your home is your business. And that's all I'll say about that. Okay. Boy, I only have this thing on medium heat here, and this thing is really doing a job here searing this bacon. Well, what do you expect? It's a BSR pan. Whatever it is about BSR, they were great tools in the kitchen. Besides, I really don't have to completely and thoroughly cook this bacon, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding the other ingredients into the pot and boiling it all for half an hour, for about at least an hour or so. All right, bacon can make a bumper on a car good to eat. Just about. And that's why if I mean I look for hog jowls or ham hocks, but unfortunately could not find them. The tradition of Hoppin John is based on the legend here. You really should try using pieces of food that are generally considered to be throwaways. I mean, granted, a lot of people have no problem with hog jowls and ham hocks. You know, they say you use every part of the pig except the squeal. On the other hand, there are a lot of people who might be kind of reluctant to eat those parts of the pig. If you are one of those folks, I might suggest you take a chance, make some Hoppin' John, and use that piece, like hog jowls or pork chops, or ham hocks, and see what you think. Take a chance. All right, so we're already off to a decent start here. Means now that we have our bacon. As I said, I'm not going to fully and thoroughly cook this. I'm going to just enough here to get a little bit of fat in the pan here. And besides, I don't want to spend forever just on the bacon because we have a few more steps to go. Besides, I'm only taking this bacon out just so that I can throw the ribs in. And once I've done a little bit of searing on those ribs, we will add the rest of it because this is really not much more than a pork stew. Nice and simple to eat. It seems like almost always the most popular and traditional dishes are very, very easy to make. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. So here comes step number 2. If you know, folks, we want to get into collecting cast iron but have little money, tell them to invest in a large cast iron. Yeah, I would certainly agree with that as well. I mean, for many of us, myself included, a large cast iron pan was our very first cast iron pan. It was a great way to learn how to cook in cast iron. I still have my first cast iron pan because my first cast iron pan is only about I've only been using it for 13 years, and it is now about 21 years old because I received it as a gift in 2002 and let it sit in the back of a kitchen cabinet for 8 years where it became orange with rust. Yes, that is exactly what happened. And then I was bitten by the cast iron bug. And that was when I learned how to use cast iron, clean cast iron, refurbish cast iron, and enjoy cast iron. So I would certainly agree that if you want to get started in cast iron, there's one of the best ways to do it is just go to Marshall's, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Wally World, get yourself a nice large 10-inch skillet. Or maybe you got lucky and someone gave you a large 10-inch skillet for Christmas, because that is a really good Christmas present. I was working a lot of OT. Hello, Val's Black Cat's Cafe. Yeah, Black Cat's Rule. Yes, and I know all too well about the OT. Pork hocks rule, best for greens, which is what we are going to be using or doing. All right. Okay, at this point, we've gotten a little bit of color, I guess you could say, in this pork. No, I'm not going to call it browning, but it's at least it's not pink. And having done that, time now to throw the bacon back in. And the rest of it is really just going to be no more than mixing it all up together. I only have 7 large cast iron pieces, some old, some new. Oh, you're in trouble, Terry Sinchef. You only have 7 large cast iron pieces. Got to work on that. Teresa Patterson, my first cast iron was also large, but it's about 50 years old and was my great-grandmother's. Well, congratulations on that. I do hope it's getting a lot of use. You know, add to the legacy. And Deep Pal, Rocket, Rick, and all of you cast iron heads. Yeah, and I guess I should say yet again, I am not being paid or sponsored by large cast iron. I suppose I could be, but I like being independent because I have, in fact, talked a lot about other brands of cast iron as well. I mean, as I mentioned, this is a BSR cast iron pot here, not Lodge. This, in fact, I've only had for several months. This was a very lucky eBay score, and probably the best eBay score I'd had in a long time. But I certainly intend on keeping this for the rest of my life, that's for sure. This Red Mountain Dutch oven here is likely, if it's not 100 years old, it's got to be probably about 90 years old and heading towards 100. And as you can see, it still does a great job preparing Hoppin John. All right, and that's pretty much the hardest part. Now we get to start throwing stuff in, which means throwing. Oh, holy! How the hell did I do that? Oh my God! Ah! I just dropped my onions all over the floor. Sure. Oh man. Okay, so don't ask me how. It just slipped, literally. Ah, damn it. All right. Yeah, I know. Chaos. It's still annoying. All I did was pick up the bowl the wrong way, and suddenly it just went everywhere. All right, because now that means I've got to chop up some more onions. Brilliant, Ace. Okay, well, let's just keep going. That's all we can do. As they say, the show must go on. I get this out as quickly as I can. Oh man, I am mad at myself for that. Besides, I wasted an onion. Okay, let's very quickly dig out another onion. And it also means I've got to stir that pot a little bit more. Although I've certainly been doing my bit of stirring the pot lately, I guess you could say. If you've been catching some of the drama that I started on YouTube. No, I won't get into a long discussion of that. On the other hand, I don't regret it, because that is another subject that I've been familiar with for a long time, but have not really brought up much here on my channel. And that was the subject of banned books. And why am I talking about banned books on a channel that has to do with cooking and cast iron? Well, first of all, let me move this out. Oh, first of all, come on. Okay. First of all, of course, this is my channel and I can talk about what I want. And what's more, I don't have sponsors to offend. Also, it's a subject that I find interesting. I won't devote the entire channel to it, but I do feel it's something that I might mention and probably will be mentioning more often. That actually came up on Christmas Eve when, on TikTok of all places, I saw this very quick 10-second video of a guy who said something very appropriate, and I liked it a lot. This was simply a guy making a statement, and his statement was, at no time in history have the people who banned books ever been the good guys. And I liked that. It inspired me to comment on that video saying, it's Christmas Eve and nuts. I should have gotten some banned books to give to friends and family as presents. At which point then the idea came up which I then made into a quickie video. That video that is there under my YouTube shorts that says, if you get an Amazon gift card, why not use some of it and get a banned book? Something that you want. I'm not telling you what books to get, in fact. And don't worry, I'll be very brief I won't be take much longer on this. Might as well put this in a bowl that had the bacon. But first of all, I've spent my life in the geek crowd and the nerd crowd, the Dungeons and Dragons crowd, the science fiction crowd, the book loving crowd. So it's pretty much been a given that the crowd I hang out with has been very, very strongly in favor of supporting and promoting banned books. So I didn't think it would be that big of a deal to post that, to make that little announcement on my YouTube channel. Except that I found out there are people out there on YouTube who don't feel that way about banned books. But hey, now that I've wasted that much time, and it means as well, might even have a little browning on this pork. But yes, there were people there. As soon as I suggested, get yourself a banned book for Christmas. Well, suddenly, you're in favor of showing hardcore pornography to school children. Don't you know that that those school libraries are full of awful things about sex, and that we need to keep that away to protect the children? Yeah. And in fact, that's all I'm going to say about this. As I said, I'm not going to make this long and drawn out subject. Maybe another time, but not tonight. However, felt it was worth mentioning just because of that reaction that I got on YouTube that really kind of caught me off guard. I don't regret it though, and I am not going to shut up about it. I'm going to shut up about it now because we've got some pork and bacon and onions, which means now, time now. And here I admit I'm kind of cheating. I didn't soak my own beans this time. Actually, I'll just stay over here so that you can see the pot. Yeah, there we go. All right. Now, since 1 pound of dry beans when in water goes to maybe a little less than twice its volume, I had to be sure to get 2 cans of black-eyed peas. So in we go. Yeah. Oh, come on. Now what? Try this. There we go. And yeah, I might as well use the water from the can too. Add some flavor that way. Besides, that's not going to be all the water. That's 1. So again, folks, I promise that's all I'm going to be talking about that subject tonight. And we will get on instead to celebrating the new year, which is well on its way. And again, it's this coming Monday. I've been invited, in fact, to a New Year's bash on Saturday night at my friend's encampment in Pennsylvania, which I'm really hoping I can take them up on it. So yeah, Saturday night I'm going to be hopefully rocking the night away with some of my favorite independent small bands. All right. There we go. There are our black-eyed peas. And to this, we will throw in, you see, I already threw in the onions, and I did that the hard way. Let's throw in a little bit of hot sauce, sriracha in this case. Not much, just a tiny bit. That's probably enough. Also, some red pepper flakes, which again, not very much, but that should be enough. Finally, of course, pepper. I could even tell a story about this pepper grinder. Not a very exciting story, but there's a story behind that too. Salt. Finally, fill it up with some water. I think I'll use the cans, in fact, to add extra water to this. And get the extra liquid out of the cans. Probably one more can is all we need. There we go. And that's 2. That should be enough. So that now, you know what? I think I'll throw in a little bit more water just to be sure. There we go. That should be enough. And that is our black-eyed peas and pork. So we're off to a decent start here. Bring some pint. Yeah, actually, what I need to bring is the fruit cake. You know, the fruit cake that's been fermenting since Thanksgiving? I think I will bring the fruit cake. I love black-eyed peas. Wife hates them, so I have to wait until she's elsewhere to eat them. Oh, you have my condolences, Rocket Caver. Beans are good for the heart. The more you eat, the more you chart. After all, we're seeing a band here. Have you heard of a band called Ween? Yes, I have. Have a wood cook stove? I'm afraid I do not, I'm sorry to say. I substitute brown field peas for black eyes, just like them better. Well, you could certainly do that. After all, you're the one who's eating them. You know, there's no law that says you absolutely have to use a certain kind of food. My dad was on our school board years ago. He had a mother who wanted a book removed from the library. It wasn't removed. Well, congratulations on that. I give to charity, places like Hookers Without Borders. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I see. I think they make hooked rugs. I get it. In fact, I have a friend who's a hooker in that way, too. I threw 2 onions once in a blender. It worked somewhat. Thank goodness. Thankful that they don't ban beer. Yeah, they tried that, as you know, prohibition, and see how far that got. Okay. Wish they could ban ads on YouTube. So do I, quite frankly. I love banned books. Some should be read, some should never have been written. That is also true. I will not deny that. I will not say that all books that are written deserve to be read. Some of them are indeed trash. Of course, you know, they also say one man's trash is another man's treasure. Somebody's talking about the lamb mold again. That's how you put them in the iron pan. Oh, yeah. I can't think of how many times I've done that. Oh, I see. Same thing happens to me when I try to pick up women. They scatter everywhere. Yeah, that sounds like me as well. So, all right, okay. Having done that, we've got to keep moving. That's because we're not done with our prep work yet, which means the next thing. Oh, we're already past 8:30. That's good. Next is ah, got a vegetable steaming basket here in this large enamel cast iron pan, because this is going to be nice and easy. All we really need to do is steam us up these collard greens. Yeah, I'm taking the easy way out tonight, I admit it. Also, I couldn't find fresh collard greens in December in New York. So you might have them down south, but I don't think we have them up here in New York. All right, so that means to this, all I need to do is, where is it? Here it is. Measure out about half a stick of butter. The other half, meanwhile, is going to go into the cornbread. Throw that in. Maybe some salt. And to this, let's throw in some more water. And the nice thing about steaming vegetables, as opposed to boiling them, is you don't have to fill this whole thing up with water. All we really need are a couple of cups of water or so. Well, maybe more than that. I think I should have added the water, in fact, so that I could see the water level. I'm trying to get it so that it comes up to about the level of that steaming basket. And once we do that, we pop on the heat. Should probably be enough. Yep, we are. It's just at about the level of the steaming basket. So that means cover goes on. The heat goes on, just like, again, a low to medium heat. And we will be steaming these collard greens. By the way, actually, notice what I just did. This is the Lodge. This is a Lodge double Dutch enamel Dutch oven. And notice I simply put this here rather than up against these other handles. That makes this much easier to lift. With so many fruit and veggie scares in today's age, scared to purchase any. Okay, with Monday off, I'm all mixed up. One man gathers what another man spills. You don't want your water to boil out. Yes, that's why exactly. That's why I covered it to steam it. I'm not quite as old as Dan, but I'm old enough to get confused. Well, thank you again, Val's Black Cats. Sherman had a scorched earth policy. I didn't realize what a historian you are. Well, I know a little bit, partly because my parents were Civil War buffs. My mom was a Civil War buff for her entire life. So as a result, we learned a fair amount about the Civil War, both North and South. Also, I was shocked in New York City, on Fifth Avenue in New York City, just outside of Central Park. There is this big, very gaudy statue of General Sherman, dressed up in the toga and olive wreath of a Roman emperor, in which apparently it's celebrating his conquest of the American South. And yes, I will certainly disagree with that. I don't think Sherman's march was as glorious as it's depicted. I will not, unfortunately, say that the South were the good guys. I don't think there really were any good guys, although the cause that the South seceded for, oh man, boy, is that ever another touchy subject. But yeah, Sherman's march, on the other hand, was, yeah, pretty controversial in itself. Okay, JIR finishes. I cook my collards in a pot on gas grill burner to keep the smell out of the house. Yeah, that's not a bad plan, actually. We needed a fix. I have a pound of black-eyed peas. I'll have to cook them with ham hocks for the new year. It's definitely worth it, Terry Sinchef. Bass Pro Cabela's wants $150 for a number 8 Blacklock skillet. Ooh, boy, that does seem quite a bit, that's for sure. You can get it cheaper on Lodge's own website. If I remember right, I did buy my my 10-inch Blacklock skillet from Lodge's website, and I think it cost $60 plus shipping. So that's definitely not $150. I'll say that much. General Sherman had a lot of hot dogs to get rid of, hence the fires. Cynthia, we had a nice Christmas dinner at the brother's house. I got to brown the butter in a number 12 Griswold. Wow, number 12 Griswold. I hope there was a lot of butter, or maybe you used the Griswold as a roasting pan, perhaps. Okay, so we've taken care of both of these, which means next, here's the next thing. Let's, way back here is the Lady Bess 1 quart saucepan. Yes, this is another one that I acquired just last year. I guess nice way to celebrate 2023. Now that I think of it, I refurbished the handle and it's done great. And so far, what I've been using it for most is melting butter, because Cast iron is the world's greatest butter melter. Well, it's the world's greatest a lot of things, but that includes melting butter. All right. And there we go. So that's number three. And because we've got that, we will be able to start preparing ourselves some cornbread. Oh, before I forget, I am new here. Well, hello, Fuzz T Fork 8. Welcome to our little chat room here on Wednesday nights. Yes, well, thank you for coming. Definitely, I'm very glad you decided to take some time to stop by in our little roundhouse. Where, as you can see, we definitely have cast iron, and I'm sorry to say, we have chaos too. So, but I do my best to get by. I haven't killed myself yet. And on the other hand, if I do, you folks will be able to witness it. But now let's get down to making us some cornbread. I've already mixed up the dry ingredients here. And even though this also proves I'm a Yankee, I like my cornbread with sugar in it. So, yes, I do have 2 cups of cornmeal mixed in with about a half a cup of sugar in there. Not to mention, of course, some baking powder and salt as well. But now it's time to break out the wet ingredients. To this, we add in 1 cup of buttermilk. And it would help if I pop this thing open. There we go. And that, of course, is only the beginning of the liquid that we're going to be adding to this. But let me stick this back in the fridge. And then from there, we are also going to mix up 1 egg, which I did actually remember to bring out to room temperature. How about that? Happy New Year. There we go. Here's 1 egg. I think that was one of the best egg cracks I've done in a while, too. So we're off to a decent start here. All right, that means to this, we will then be adding, that melted butter, in fact. Butter's not quite melted, but it should be melted in probably just a couple of minutes. Because as I said, cast iron is the world's best butter melter. And I'm not kidding about that. Yes, you can do it in the microwave. Of course, if you do it in the microwave, you know what happens? The butter tends to explode. You usually get this pop, and melted butter, just splatters all over the microwave oven. Well, then use a covered microwave dish. Well, yes, you can do that. Actually, hey, this has actually gotten a nice consistency here. Looks like we may not even have to add extra milk. Boy, not bad at all. Sometimes it's just way too dry, but this actually looks pretty good. And all I did was use a cup of buttermilk. All right. Good egg crack is good luck. Well, I certainly hope so. Yeah, so far I'm getting these little signs here that this is going to be a good cornbread. I mean, I'm preparing it in lucky number 7. So far, these little things here are all turning out. Well, I probably shouldn't even talk this way until it's done. But considering we are doing a little bit of cooking magic tonight, we are making a wish for prosperity in the new year. Little signs like this are a good thing. Browning butter is great in cast iron. You can take the color to the richest brown. Yeah, there is that, and that's one thing you can do in cast iron that you cannot do in a microwave. Which again comes down to cast iron is the world's greatest butter melter. I will stand by that. Fight me. Well, no, don't fight me. And hello, Debbie. Yes, hello, hi, and welcome to our Cast Iron Wednesday here. Good luck all around. Well, yeah, here's hoping we do have some good luck, not just tonight, but pretty much from now on, because I think we all need it. Huh. And hello, Rick Hubby says hi. All I'm doing right now is waiting for this butter to finish melting. You know what? Let me just take this hot iron off the stove and see if I can't just get finish melting it this way because the iron is already hot. Yeah, it definitely looks like it's melting too. Yet another thing you can't do in a microwave. There we go. Butter is melted. In we go. That's about half a stick of butter for the record. We put this back on the stove because it's hot. The handle's not, yay, wooden handle. But yeah, we've already got some really watery cornbread mix here. I was not expecting that. Nice. Oh, wait a second. I haven't yet started heating up the oil in the pan. So, better bring out Froggy, this little trivet here. And let's also dig up my favorite cornbread oil, which actually is not lard. When making cornbread, I have had the best luck with corn oil. It's got a high smoke point, so I find that it tends to brown the cornbread rather than blackening it. So I like that. All right, all we have to do is throw a little bit of this oil in here. Doesn't have to be too much. Back and forth. And throw this back in the oven for at least a minute or so. Although this is definitely good and hot. Yay, gas stove. Okay, Froggy, you did your job. And finally, to this, as I said, this is going to be a sweet cornbread. That means let's throw in some honey. Because this is special, it is for the new year. So much like the way we use special ingredients on Christmas, we will throw in some honey and make this a nice honey cornbread. Southerners may not like sweet cornbread, but they like honey cornbread. Mhm. So hopefully that appeases everyone. Take a drink of wine. Well, I just guessed. Well, oh, didn't have to cook tonight. Oh, nice. Well, if you didn't have to cook, lucky you. Still 49 degrees here in Western New York. Yeah, we haven't yet seen the temperature drop, but I understand it's coming. As long as we don't have a blizzard this weekend, because I would rather have good weather for traveling to and from Pennsylvania. All right, now that we've done this much, let's get that hot pan out of the oven once again, because it is time for the most important thing, second most important thing. The most important thing about cornbread is eating it. But what is the second most important thing? That would be the sizzle. That's the second most important thing about making cornbread. If it doesn't sizzle, it's not cornbread. Of course, if you don't make it in cast iron, it's not cornbread. Oh, yeah, and we got a nice sizzle here, too. Yet another sign of good luck, I think. All right, and then from here, back to the oven again. If you're new to this channel, yes, we go on this little roller coaster ride quite often. Maybe more often than I'd like. Ooh, hot. Pot holder. Okay, pot holder is already too hot. Let's dig out another glove. And into the oven we go. All right. There we go. So far, so good. What time is it now anyway? It is 8:50. Okay, good. I like it. Here we go. Let's have another view here of our nice bubbling pot. All right, 60 on Christmas, light dusting of snow today. Debbie, it started on Monday and stopped snowing this afternoon. Very cool. I have 3 irons. Have no idea what they are. I use them for door stops and holding my steaks down in my cast iron. Well, that's a good reason for it. A lot of those sad irons are unidentifiable, unfortunately. They're pretty generic, much like lucky number 7. There are some that have a manufacturer's mark on them, and if you have one with a manufacturer's mark, well, then that's a bonus. What makes your toes curdle? Sizzling cast iron. Still don't understand how people can handle driving in the snow constantly, like all winter. Yes, exactly. But there are some people who do that. I'm not one of them. However, having done all this, let me move this over now. And here I am using a whole bunch of dishes here. But time for the last thing to prepare. And actually, I've got to dig out one more bowl, it seems like. So if you'll excuse me 1 second, I need to step this way and dig out this bowl and get this over to the sink. Because the last thing we're going to do is prepare some rice. Yeah, some rice to go with the Hoppin John. That means get to wash out some rice. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. And this has become a very useful tool in my kitchen. And that would be this rice strainer, which I think I paid maybe $5 for at a Chinese market, or maybe even at a flea market. I'm not sure. Anyway, here we have a cup of jasmine rice, my favorite kind of rice. And now we get to actually wash the rice. People don't wash the rice. With jasmine rice, it's optional. You really don't have to wash out the rice, although some people argue that there's arsenic, so you probably should. On the other hand, with basmati rice, which I also love, it is absolutely necessary to wash the rice because basmati rice has this coating that just does not make the finished rice does not taste right unless you wash it. Anyway, this method I actually kind of developed myself. It's a manner that saves water. I could just simply run this through the running water, and that wastes a lot of the water. But instead, dip it in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 1. And we will repeat this 3 more times. So yeah, this kind of conserves water. And considering that I get a water bill from my town every 6 months, I am definitely interested in conserving water. Every little bit counts. Here's number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why 8? Why 8 hand movements? Because it sounds right and it feels right. I just kind of made this method up myself. I don't have any reason other than, as I said, it feels right. Here comes number 3. See, we're already almost 3/4 of the way done with this. So washing out rice is really not that difficult. It's also the reason why I have not bothered getting a rice cooker. Because even with a rice cooker, you still have to wash the rice. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're 3/4 of the way done already. You're supposed to wash the rice until the water is not as cloudy. It's not going to be crystal clear, but it will be clear enough so that you can see the rice. So that's why I do this 4 times, and this is the last time. And as I said, a lot of people think it's a pain to wash rice. it does take a couple of minutes, yes. It does take a couple of extra utensils like this strainer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. We are now done washing the rice. So now we get to go over. Oh, this thing is steaming nicely now. Now we get to. Actually, that's what I forgot. Let's take the lid off of this. Well, since this is not hot yet, let's put this over here. And flop. By the way, notice practically no sticking as well on that rice. That's another good reason to wash it. All right. Now that we've done that, this was 1 cup of rice. And I'm afraid, I know there are some people who can go without actually measuring the water in their rice, but I am not one of them. So that means I'm going to have to measure 1.5 cups of rice. Yes, I said 1.5. There's 1 cup. Because for several years, I did the part about doing 2 cups of water for every cup of rice, but I'm finding that 1.5 cups of water actually works better. Now we will stick this on the back burner here. Turn on the heat. Come on. There we go. And I'm keeping this a little bit over half. And we're going to bring this to a boil uncovered. I repeat, uncovered. Once it is covered, we will then turn down the heat and we will then cover it. But until then, it is going to come to a boil uncovered. This, on the other hand, is steaming very nicely here. And there's a lot of water in this, so I'm not worried about it running out. Over here, on the other hand, you can only hope that these collard greens are steaming as well. But there we go. So now all I really have to do is just keep an eye on this rice. Once we do that, it'll be just a matter of waiting until it's all done. Hey, so Debbie, sounds like my light bill. I'm choking over it. Water is usually 100. Yeah, exactly. That's why I did that, to save water. Every little bit counts. Thing about having your own water well is the pumps cost about $1,800. Ugh, when they go out about every 10 to 14 years. Ooh. In the long run, I suppose, I know you can argue it's a better investment. I was metered. People sometimes left their hose running accidentally and got a bill for $2,000. Ouch! My condolences there. I use basmati rice for pilaf. I like the smell of it when it cooks. I love basmati rice. It's got this, I don't know what you call it, nutty flavor to it. That is definitely worth it. I enjoy the sweet taste of jasmine rice too. I almost exclusively make jasmine and basmati. And our video is freezing too much, Papa Dan. We were 7 minutes behind. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Watch the replay. Yeah, have a happy new year, Papa Dan. I'm sorry to hear about the connection. I like brown rice, and Andrew Bonificio. And going further back here, hey Frank, got any trolling going on? Enjoy Deep Hell Pal. Been down there. It was once many years ago. California, currently in Texas for work. And 35 degrees in southern Illinois, which is still not bad for December. I'll say that much. We need to protect the children. They are the future. Yes, they are. However, the children are a lot more durable than we think, than we sometimes give them credit for. Wait, what was that? Why was this only scrolling up? What Prizer skillets, turquoise blue enamel cast iron. So it's a good brand. Is it a good brand? I haven't used it. Prizer. I think I've heard of that brand, but I unfortunately do not have it memorized. I don't recognize the name, so that may suggest that it's Asian made. Nonetheless, if you feel it looks pretty, go ahead and use it. I mean, there's really no need to be afraid. So, gonna be 30 tonight, Papa. we semi drivers do, so that all the gifts are under the Christmas tree. Mhm. Toes and cast iron don't go together. Now, that's also true. I have yet to experience that, and hopefully I never will. All right, getting back down to the bottom here. Have you heard any reviews of the new large American made enamel? Not yet, actually. I mean, I've gotten some unboxing comments, of course. And of course, Louis J and cast iron cooking. He scored himself a USA enameled right away. I really haven't heard any reviews of it yet. That's one reason why I would like to get one of those, just so that I can put it through its paces and compare it to, say, a cheaper enameled saucepan, as well as my stove enameled Dutch oven, and see how they turn out. But you never know what the next year is going to bring about. Trans fat clog your arteries. Well, there is that. However, frankly, butter, like just about any other food we make, is just fine when taken in moderation. I mean, yes, if like for instance, yeah, have you seen these people these days who are making steaks literally drowning, literally covered in butter? We're talking like maybe about taking 3 or 5 pounds of butter and using it to cook a steak. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing that myself for the number one reason that butter is expensive. I'm not going to waste all that, especially since you don't have to. As you know, all you really need to cook a steak is a good cast iron pan. And good night, Papa Dan. Rum chata and chocolate milk taste like cinnamon toast crunch. That sounds interesting. Oh, Louis J is here. Yes, tell us about your large enamel. I wouldn't mind seeing that as well. That BSR cleaning you did the other day from the ham was unreal. Oh yeah, I know. Well, that was my own fault for making that ham in it with a sugar glaze. So I took the ham and I made a very thick glaze consisting of brown sugar and honey. It's a honey glazed ham. So I smeared that all over the ham, and that got, of course, all over the pan, which was the whole point. And then into the pan, I poured the extra juice from the can of pineapple slices that I used to dress up the ham. So what we had there was this really sticky and bubbly, gooey mess of combination of honey, brown sugar, and pineapple juice. So yeah, that it did not burn. It actually had this blackened color, but it didn't burn. Thank goodness. However, that thing got so thick. How thick did it get? Well, I made the mistake of leaving it out overnight without cleaning the pan because I was tired and I was lazy. It was Christmas night. What do you expect? I was tired. So as a result, that was what we saw the morning after that. That was a good full. It must have been at least an eighth or even a quarter inch thick of that sticky stuff. And yet, even though it did take a lot of elbow grease, and yes, I saw all the comments on that video saying that I should have just simply boiled some water in it. You know, I'm not sure how successful that might have been in getting off the side of the pan as well as the bottom. Nonetheless, I did it the hard way. And yet, even though it did take a lot of elbow grease, I still managed to get it clean in about, is that rice boiling? I think that rice is just about boiling already. It only took a little more than maybe 12 minutes or so of very vigorous scrubbing with the scraper and the chainmail scrubber, and the pan was clean. um, Yeah, I do. Well, maybe not. I mean, it is bubbling, but I'm going to give it about a minute or so yet because I don't think it's really boiling yet. The rice, that is. Water works fine to cook potatoes and steak. Butter is not a trans fat, margarine is. And yet they actually have removed those bad trans fats from margarine. Several years ago, they finally did ban that trans fat chemical, whatever, I forget the name of it. And so it has been removed from margarine. So margarine, I guess you could say it, I don't know if you can call it healthy, but it's less unhealthy, I guess, which is another reason why I don't have a problem with using margarine in my cooking. And I'll say that. I know everybody is going to throw eggs at me, but I sometimes leave my cast iron soaking overnight. Never had any problems. Well, then your cast iron must be very well seasoned, Deepel Pal. Of course, clean it the way that works for you. So I'm not going to throw eggs at you. But that's actually pretty amazing if it doesn't rust like that. Debbie, when I made New Year strips, when I made New Year, no, New Year strips cooked in butter and then put half a cup of water and gosh, was it tender and good. Haven't had one in a long time. Well, that's a good sign, I think. And good night, Eric D. Slider as well. Well, then with the new year coming up, Deep Help, Debbie, there's a good excuse to make it, I think. Deep Help must be well seasoned and yeah, whatever works for you. All right. Yeah, okay. Now this rice is definitely boiling, which means now we cover it, turn down the heat to low, and just simply let it simmer as is for 12 minutes. It is 9:06. So at 9:18 p.m., we will then turn off the heat for this rice. And that's it. And yeah, so it's really not that hard to cook rice, as I found out. All right, use goat butter. It's creamer. Creamer? Maybe cleaner? I don't know. Cast iron can rust under the seasoning. It happens. It didn't take me 12 minutes to watch you scrub that pan. Well, no, I used fast forward, especially because I didn't want people to put up with 12 minutes of me scrubbing that pan. Toss those eggs here. I'll make more nog. Yeah, I wouldn't mind more eggnog. Gee, Humphrey, wish I could. Sounds good. So anyway, this is how. Yeah. So this really is not that hard. I mean, I've got no less than 3 cast iron. Oh wait, the cornbread. Shush. I just thought of that. Oh yeah, I think I just thought of it just in time too. Phew, man, I almost forgot. Because let's bring this out and let's take a look at this, shall we? Oh yeah. Check this out, folks. Boy, I think literally just in time, but here's the result. This thing actually seems to be, it didn't seem to rise as well as some cornbread has. I think I better take out the old toothpick and see how it turned out. Besides, that was a pretty watery cornbread mix. I may actually have to throw this back into the oven. But let's see what it's like. Uh, you know, believe it or not, this cornbread might actually be done. But yeah, well, I think I can maybe put in maybe another minute or two. Although I'm surprised that the center sunk like this. Might be because, as I said, this was a more watery or liquidy cornbread mix than I was expecting. Nonetheless, all right, well, we're almost there. I got a cast iron trivet with something about a horse. Okay. Oh, yeah. I got a cast iron trivet with mama horse and colt behind a fence today. It truly looks old. Don't know, though. Oh, yeah. It sounds like one of those Amish design trivets. There are a lot of those, it seems like. But that actually sounds nice. Just like anything else, it will last. No reason to baby it too much. Exactly. Yes, cast iron, no joke. My bad goat butter is more creamy. Anyway, as I said, maybe just another minute or so, and I think that cornbread will be ready to come out of the oven for good. Okay, here's my other. Okay, let me throw these cans in the trash. or recycling rather. All right. Wouldn't be a bad idea to start cleaning up already. But nonetheless, Mercy still doesn't want to get online, but says hi. Needs to make a new quickie email, but won't. Well, hello, Mercy. All right, but yeah, this again is my little froggy trivet, which I had to admit I get it because I got him because of the look, as opposed to a couple of my favorite trivets here, such as this one, which obviously has personal meaning to me because you can definitely see the 8-pointed star of chaos in this trivet. So this is one that I am quite glad to own here. And I do my best to get a lot of use out of these trivets. I do not know who the manufacturers of these trivets are. Unfortunately, they do not have a maker's mark on them, so I'm not so sure if this is a Wilton trivet. This one, on the other hand, actually says Taiwan. So good old Froggy here actually swam here from Asia. That's all right. He does a good job holding up pans. Love trivets just as many of them as cast iron. Okay, well now, as I said, I was only going to keep that in for about another minute or so. So let's get out this glove one more time. Oh yeah, it's actually browned up maybe a slightly more, I think. I think it's definitely done. So even though the center sunk more for some reason, I would say we've got ourselves some cornbread. Gonna be some nice cornbread to go with the Hoppin John as well. I've had goat milk and cheese, but never butter. Yeah, it's been a while since I've had goat cheese too. I have a Tabasco hot sauce trivet. Oh, I've seen those. No, actually, I've seen those Tabasco fajita pans as well. Got some cornbread. Yes, we do. And the interesting thing about cornbread is a lot of the times you can take this out of the pan while it's still hot. I'm going to let it wait maybe a couple of minutes or so before I try taking it out. Because this thing was so soft, I hope this cornbread doesn't split. But, well, we can always find out. Sometimes I crumble a cornbread and put milk and sugar in it for breakfast. Why not? Yes, that actually is good cornbread mush cereal. Brown some butter to smear on the cornbread. That's actually sounding pretty good. But anyway, as I said, this really has not been difficult at all to make. None of this has. It is 9:13. In another 5 minutes, we will turn off the heat completely for the rice. I put some sugar. Okay, but there we go. Yeah, as I said, oh great, did I do what I think I did? Okay, that was my fault. Ah, I hope it didn't burn the rice. Okay, I think I might have turned down the wrong pot. Instead of the rice, I think I turned down the Dutch oven. Well, the Dutch oven is still steaming, so I think that was only a few seconds. Bacon grease is good on cornbread. I don't put sugar, I just use milk. Well, yeah, this is a sweet cornbread, I do have to say. It's a honey cornbread, in fact. It has sugar and honey in it, because that's how I like my cornbread. But as I said, this dish really was not that hard to prepare. The Hoppin John is really no more than a stew of pork and black-eyed peas. So I am very much looking forward to that. Which reminds me as well, I've got to get out a plate so that we can prepare it. Because we are getting to that point, aren't we? I'd say at this point, in fact, when the rice is done, which will be at about 9:28, everything should be done. And considering it's been almost an hour and a half, that may very well be it. So we will serve it, and then we will be done for the evening. Although we still have several minutes yet. Once again, as I said, this is the what I like to call a generic gate-marked cast iron skillet because it's got a very recognizable teardrop-shaped handle And of course, it has the gate mark on the bottom. On eBay and on antique malls, they often sell these things for ridiculous amounts of money, as you know. And no, I would not pay that amount of money for a gate mark skillet because they are actually still quite common and not too hard to find. So if you want one of these pans, the best I could say is keep looking, and eventually you will find it. However, here's the part where I find out whether or not I did good with this cornbread. Because this is the most, suspenseful moment in making cornbread or really baking anything in cast iron, and that is the flip. Because yeah, this is still hot, but all right, let's run this around the sides. All right, there we go. Oops, don't want to break it. There we go. No time like the present. Actually, let's do it this way because this hand is better. 1, 2, 3. And hey, it mostly worked. Yeah, for the most part, even though I did kind of break up the bottom there. Yeah, like I said, this was more of a liquid cornbread than I expected. Now I got to put this somewhere. I think I'll put this, well, I don't know if I should put it in the oven. Let me put it over here, keep it out of the way because this pan is still hot. But nonetheless, all we have to do now is flip it. And voila, here's our cornbread. A lot of cornbread too, a 9-inch cornbread. This is a pretty decent hunk of cornbread here, especially since I'm the only one here. Rocket Caver, we paid $20 for the last gate mark skillet we found and cleaned up real nice. That is a decent price, I would say. So that's not bad at all. I paid $15 for my lucky number 7 at Brimfield, and then I found it had a huge crack in it. But I actually took the time, well, maybe 98, now I'd say maybe 95% perfect. Because, yeah, the most important thing is it did not burn, not even on the bottom. So we definitely have some decent cornbread here. Now I just have to wait and let it settle so that it doesn't break apart when I cut it up. Put that butter on it and chomp away. Yeah, actually, that's not a bad plan, is it? So let us dig out our butter spread, shall we? And where is that? Oh, yeah. That is over here. Ugh. Oh, yeah, you too. Always something. Okay. We got our butter spread. And like you said, start smearing it on. Let's get it on, shall we? Yeah, the top of this is already crumbling. Frankly, I think I've made better or more sturdy cornbread, but I have no doubt that the taste is still going to be worth it. So, as such, I'm really not complaining, especially since, again, we will be eating this with Hoppin John. There we go. Now, let's cover this. Let the steam melt. Oops, there it goes already. Shit, I was going to say let the steam melt it. My bad. All right. Well, no point in being fancy. It is 9:19. Okay, then that's the next thing. Put this aside, and hello, Froggy. Here comes cast iron pan number 2 for Froggy tonight. Because now is the point where we take the rice off the heat and just let it steam like this for 10 minutes. And then once that's done, the rice will be done. So anyway, yeah, like I said, this is not the original lid that came with this Descoware here. Um, it is, but it fits. That's the important thing. And I'm getting a text here. How's the food coming along? Okay. Um, the pork and black-eyed peas are just about done, full stop. The cornbread is finished, comma, and the rice is almost done, full stop. Everything will be ready in about 10 minutes, full stop. So yeah, we're doing pretty good here tonight. It has an A9. Oh, you have a fancy handle. Nice. A9 on the fancy handle. Only our second gate mark skillet. They're getting hard to find here. I'm not familiar with a pointed handle pan. Yes, I do know what you're talking about. Fancy handle skillet. Now let me see. Let me cover this butter spread up here. Put this cornbread over to the side for the moment. And let me help show folks, don't want this to fall. Let me go and show folks what a fancy handle cast iron skillet is. Because I just simply have to walk into the living room, go to my rack here, and take out this piece. I'm presuming you are talking about this. This is what they call a fancy handle cast iron skillet. Okay, because again, it has a pointy handle, like you said, and definitely a fancy handle. I understand on Facebook this has been identified as being from like about the 1850s or so. And there was a whole series of these as well. This is very light and very thin. Despite its very big size, it is probably one of the thinnest and lightest cast iron skillets I know of, and I'm glad to own it. On the bottom, it has a very prominent gate mark. It has no manufacturing mark on it whatsoever. And unlike what he said, there is no A9 or anything like that mark on this. But this is, in fact, what they call a fancy handle gate mark cast iron skillet. And of course, they call it fancy handle because nobody knows the manufacturer. Oh, yeah, it has only a single pour spout, too. I'm going to move that over here. It has only a single pour spout, which I understand also dates it to like about the 1850s or Civil War era at the most. Only seeing 3 likes here. Oh, okay. All right. Oops, I'm sorry. I probably should have just stayed here so that you could take a look at this pan more. Let me move it back the way it was there, so that you can see the handle. There we go. That's a pretty good view. All right. More like my raised handle. I hit the like before I joined the chat. Okay, it has an A9. Yeah, exactly. But I went and bought it because they are very rare here. Yes, and a lot of times it seems like on the hunt. If you find something that you really, really want, you may have to grab it right away before it disappears. We all have our stories of how we passed up on a treasure, cast iron treasure, and unfortunately it was gone the next time we looked for it. Yeah, this is actually not a bad way to end the year with showing off a fair number of cast iron pans here tonight. This is number 5, in fact. So, and most of them are vintage except for that large enameled pot. This, again, this Descoware here, my understanding is this probably dates to maybe the 1960s, 1970s or so, I think. Whereas, again, we've got this, we've got old lucky number 7 here. With its gate mark. So we actually have 2 gate mark cast iron pans on display tonight. So things are doing nicely here, especially since everything's going to be done now in just another couple of minutes. It is 9:24. At 9:28, we can officially call the rice done. And when that happens, I think we can officially check everything and serve ourselves up some Hoppin John. So based on that, that's one other thing to consider. It has taken almost an hour and a half to make all of this from scratch. So if you are making this for New Year's Eve, I would say 10 p.m. would be a good time to do it, because then everything would be ready by 11:30. Because no, I'm not asking you to uncover some Hoppin John just at midnight, but rather uncover it at 11:30 so that everybody will have a nice steaming hot plate of food. And that way you can just celebrate the new year 30 minutes after that. So there's a suggestion. What's that white spot on the skillet? Oh, yes, this. This, in fact, is where the crack was repaired. When I got this one, this had not one, but two cracks on it, including one very, very big crack right about here, in fact. So I was majorly disappointed to discover that this, after I had cleaned it up, that this had two big cracks in it. But I did not want to let this go. And so I actually went and found a professional welder to weld this. So this is probably a nickel weld. And I would say he did a very good job welding this, because again, this was a huge crack on this. And there's almost no way to tell other than the white spot. The second crack, meanwhile, was right about here by the handle. And you can really only notice it. Oh, let me move it this way. The second crack was right about here. And you can only really notice it if you look very, very closely. So I'm actually quite happy with the welding job that was done on this. All right, I think it's time to start clearing all of this out. And that means I have to put back this fancy handle skillet, because I don't want it to get dirty, not unless I have to. And quite frankly, I don't have to right now. So let's put this back on the rack, cover it with the Griswold lid that came with it. Get out another trivet. And with any luck, the main course, don't want to drop old Froggy there, the main course should be done. So that means I have to put on my gloves again. Turn off the heat, because this is definitely hot. But there we are. Here is our Red Mountain Dutch oven. And inside this Red Mountain Dutch oven, what do we have? We have a lot of juice is what we have. But what we also have are the black-eyed peas and the bacon and pork. And the pork is coming apart. That means it's done. And that means we can prepare some Hoppin John. So that also means we've got to get to that next pot that I haven't touched since I started it. Here's hoping that this is done, but I would hope that an hour and a half of steaming this was enough. Well, maybe an hour of steaming this. Because what we have here, oh, there we go, are the collard greens, all steamed up. All right. Oops, I had very poor view. I'm sorry about that. Here are the collard greens. Come on. There we go. Which I steamed with butter and salt. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have the rice, which is also done. Rice made in an enameled cast iron pot, not in a rice cooker. A lot of those YouTube cooking channels keep saying, get a rice cooker. And I have not done so because I have not had a need to do so. Not, do this right. When you have your rice all finished. So there we go. That means everything is turned off, including the oven and the stove top. So at last, time to bring out a bowl and get ourselves what we call the money shot. That means I'm going to have to move over here now. All right, there we go. Fortunately, this is actually sturdy enough that it should not fall over. But let's do it. Need the pot. Need this once again. Start with the rice. And onto this rice, let us serve. Actually, I think I'll use something other than this wooden spoon here. Let me dig something out. I don't know where any of these things are anymore. And I guess this will have to do. Fortunately, it's a cast iron pot, so I can serve it with a metal spoon. There we go. Pork and beans. And to that, we then add, okay, I'm going to have to move this aside. Oh yeah, this is nice. This actually looks like it turned out nice. Collard greens. And finally, of course, the cornbread. Let me see if I can do this without it all coming apart. Boy, have I made a big mess tonight. But what else is new? All right, I'm running out of room here. There we go. This is definitely not a professional presentation, folks. I will be the first to admit that. Hey, it did not fall apart. Means, almost dropped the camera. There we go, at last. So there it is, folks. Took an hour and a half of very non-hurried or rushed cooking, but here is our Hoppin John. Black-eyed peas, pork, rice, collard greens, and cornbread. So there we go, folks. Once again, the black-eyed peas are pennies. The cornbread, the collard greens are paper money. And the cornbread is gold. And yes, indeed, cornbread made in cast iron is gold. So, do you want to make some, but no hamburger meat in the house? Greens have a nice color. Yes, that's because we steamed them. I used a steaming basket rather than boiling them. Definitely steaming your greens is the way to go for precisely that reason. And that is what I would definitely recommend whenever you make collard greens. Those greens have nice color. What a treat. And well, thank you for the invite. Thank you for coming into my kitchen, Val, Black Cat's Rule as well. Yes, indeed. Pour on some of that juice. Okay, I think I will pour on more of that juice. How about that? Like you said, I think I better get that other spoon. Because why not? It gives it flavor. So there you go. I have added the juice. And now that means it's time once again. Really, I think to call it an evening because we have accomplished what we set out to accomplish, namely making a big mess in the kitchen. But here it is. Here's our Hoppin John, complete with a nice big pot, black-eyed peas and pork, rice, and cornbread. So there we go. I'm kind of hoping it does inspire somebody to give this a try because I love this. I have been making this dish every year for the past several years because it's delicious and it's a nice tradition to have. There, Clico looks homey and comforting. Well, thank you very much. My skill patches has 2 different welds. Oh yeah, my skillet patches, both nickel. Looks yummy. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. And thank you for your time as well. But yes, there we go. Because it is indeed time to call this an evening now. After all, it is still a Wednesday night, and we still have a couple of days of work left yet before we get into the New Year's weekend. So yes, we do have one last holiday weekend to enjoy, and I do very much encourage everybody to enjoy it. So that if that means partying or cooking or doing whatever you do on New Year's Eve, watch the Three Stooges, watch Godzilla, whatever you want, go ahead and do it and have fun. And I can only thank everybody once again for all of your time and for coming in here because, yes, I really love seeing all you folks here on these live videos. They definitely are very inspiring. And thank you to Rick Stumbow and Chris McGee, Happy New Year, and Jerry 1952, Night to All, and Corey Clark, Get Drunk. Jim F., Happy New Year. Randy Maple, thank you again. Beth Button, live it up. Looking forward to seeing everybody in 2024. Yes, indeed. 2024 is going to be the craziest year since 2020. Here's hoping at least we don't have a pandemic next year. But there's going to be a lot of emotion going on because you know as well as I do what 2024 is going to be. I'll say it once. The presidential election, which 2020, I thought was probably the nadir, the lowest that American politics could go. Well, 2024 may surpass that, but I hope it doesn't. And that's all I'm going to say about that. It just means that it's going to be a really interesting year, and it also means that we all need to stick together. Take care of the folks you love, and do your best as well to survive the next year. And I mean that very sincerely. And above all else, have fun. And if that means cooking in cast iron, good, because that is certainly one of my favorite ways to have fun, and I hope it is yours as well. So thank you, everybody. And here indeed is our wish for health, luck, and prosperity in the new year in 2024. So thank you once and all. Have a happy new year, folks. And we will, once again, we'll see you next Wednesday. Good night.